You need to be braced for an oil shock, friends. Everybody thinks the price of oil is going to stay down and it's not going to go up anytime soon, that there are issues that are going to be impacting demand. But the simple fact is you've been lied to. Everything that they keep pretending about the oil market is just not so. We got OPEC out there making cuts. We got regulatory issues where the Biden administration is declaring war on oil companies. And there are even issues with the stockpiles from the Fed. Their numbers just don't add up. We need to talk about these things. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade. And so I look at the numbers of these things. And like you, I hear the government say something and I immediately go, are they lying to me? Because most of the time where the government tells me something, they're lying to me. And when they're not lying to me, they are spinning things in such a way that they're basically lying to me. And I know you feel what I'm feeling. So here's the question. What is going on within the oil industry? Now, this is a global thing. This is not inside the United States alone, but we got major production from offshore oil, but really where most of our oil is coming from these days is from shale. We got the different formations up in North Dakota, we got in Texas, we got shale formations in the Appalachia region right around here where major oil production is being produced. Now, back in the day, when you built your little oil platform off the coast of Louisiana or something like that, you build that, you dig that hole, and you're going to be getting oil out of it for quite a while. Not so with the shale formations, with the fracking. You drill that hole, and you initially get a whole bunch, and then each year it starts dropping off rapidly to the point where you then have to wait for the oil to just kind of flow back in from the cracks down into the where you're going to remove it from. However, that decreases faster and faster and faster, and so you have a very sharp drop off of production from these fracking wells, and so they do another frack, and it starts dropping off. They do another frack and it starts dropping off. And so if without continual investment, we are going to see the oil production from the fracking dropping off dramatically. And fracking is such a big part of U.S. oil production that truly, when we see a lack of investment in the fracking industry, we immediately start seeing the United States oil production start dropping off. And we've been seeing that happen recently. And we're connected to, and we are absolutely dependent upon countries like Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia is a piece of work. They have been a vassal state of the United States. They're one of the few countries where we pump money into, and we actually get something for that. The U.S. dollar is propped up not by nothing. It's propped up by the Saudi promise of selling oil only for the dollar. Now, Saudi Arabia has been talking with the BRICS countries about, hey, would you accept another payment? And they're kind of like, not yet, but we'd like to talk about that. We'd like to talk about using the Chinese currency. We'd like to talk about using other currencies. Right now, we're still the dollar. You have to buy our oil with the dollar, but we'll talk to you about that. And the United States is freaking out over that because we call it the petrodollar, because the U.S. dollar is backed up by Saudi oil. The United States oil can be purchased using whatever currency you want. You can do that. So why do you really need dollars anymore? Now, to an extent, most of the time you need to take your currency and exchange it for the dollar in order to make the purchases inside the United States. So there is still some backup that we're getting from that. But the Saudis, let's just say they're not as truthful as you would hope that they would be. They always kind of want to come out and make it sound like they can up their production dramatically. So right now they're pumping out about 9 million barrels per day, which is a large amount of oil, right? But they keep telling the international community that right now they could pump out 12 million barrels per day. So if the price of oil started going up and the president of the United States goes over there and insults their prince properly or whatever, they will be able to boost their oil production in order to keep prices low. Now, of course, first off, Saudi Arabia doesn't have an incentive to boost their oil price production and bring the price of oil down. They don't really have incentive to do that. They'd like to sell more oil at high prices, so that's natural. But the problem is that this spare capacity that they have, it has been reviewed by many analysts and shown to be a pipe dream. They pretend that they could get oil wells producing again, but their equipment is broken, and what they're doing is they're pumping wells dry, and then they're stopping production there, knowing that they'll never start production again, but then they're calling that spare capacity. They're like, well, we were getting X out of this well, and we stopped production there so we could restart it and get X production. What's going on? Basically, Saudi Arabia has been pumping like there's no tomorrow, oil out of their understandably large reserves. But when you look at how much oil they have in the ground, at least officially, their number hasn't changed. They keep pulling oil out of the ground, but they haven't been lowering their estimates of how much oil they have in the ground. And notice also that they're pushing this Vision 2030 out there hard. They're trying to renovate their economy off of dependency upon oil. Why 2030? It's a good question. They're building the line city. They're investing in sports. They're investing in other areas of their economy as best they can. And I believe the reason why they're picked 2030 is because that's about the time where their oil production is going to really drop off dramatically. That's what the pessimist estimates back in the late 1900s was kind of pegging them. Back when their numbers used to be open and the reserves actually changed, and the reserves were actually verified by outside sources. Now, Saudi Aramco is the only ones verifying how much oil they have in the ground, and their number hasn't changed in 20 years. Yeah, we still got that much oil in the ground. But haven't you been pumping like crazy for the past 20 years? That's still the number. That's how much we have. They're not doing any exploration. So here's the thing, is that the United States is leaning upon Saudi Arabia to keep the oil market stable, but we're just seeing that it's just basically nothing but lies from Saudi Arabia. One analyst put it like this: if they tried to boost their production as much as possible, they're currently producing 9 million barrels per day, and supposedly they could get up to 12 million barrels per day. They said that if they do flat out production, they could maybe get to 10 million barrels per day. And the oil markets out there are pricing in that if there are any major supply disruptions to the oil market, that Saudi Arabia could flip the switch and go up to 12 million barrels per day instantly. And the simple fact is that's a pipe dream. They could maybe get up to 10 million barrels per day, but they would have to pull out all the stops. They would have to be importing equipment to restart wells across the country. They don't have the infrastructure to really go beyond 10 million barrels per day. And if something happened, heaven forbid, to the Strait of Hormuz, like Iran started sinking oil tankers, they would not be able to get 10 million barrels of oil per day out of the country. Their pipeline that goes across Saudi Arabia and comes out on the Red Sea, where the Yemenis are shooting at stuff, is much, much more constrained. They need to get their tankers through the Strait of Hormuz, or else the oil doesn't move. So all this is to say that the oil industry out there is much more fragile than we're being told. If we have any blow up in the Middle East and it impacts oil production, we're not going to be seeing Saudi Arabia coming to the rescue. They can't increase the oil production too much. The United States, what are we going to do? Go out there and frack more? There's only so many rigs out there. There's only so many workers. There's only so many places where we can frack at any given time. And the simple fact is that if oil prices go up, yes, we will ramp up fracking. But it's going to take time for that to ramp up. Right now, we're not seeing the ability to dramatically expand the oil production in the United States very quickly. And as we've said so many times, the oil coming out of the fracking industry is not the same oil that U.S. refineries use. The fracking oil, a little bit of it gets mixed in with the oil that we're importing from the Middle East and elsewhere, and Venezuela and all these other wonderful countries that we love doing business with, like Iran and, all the places we're sanctioning, right? All the Russian oil anyway. So we use a little bit of the fracking oil in our refineries because we can kind of mix it in and it's okay. But most of that fracking oil gets sent overseas to other people's refineries. So we do this hot swap where we produce oil, but we export it. And we then import other people's oil into the U.S., which is not really a problem. But the problem comes when we have a supply chain disruption. We are almost as dependent upon foreign oil today for our gas, our diesel, jet fuel. That comes from mostly foreign oil that we're producing those things for. So I don't know what to tell you other than to say that there is potentially going to be a major supply chain disruption in oil. All it takes is some nutcase doing exactly what they've been attempting to do. They just need to be successful. These Houthis that are shooting at ships as they go by, they need an oil tanker to come by and they need to sink that thing. I'm not saying that would be a good thing. I'm saying that if they do that, you're going to see suddenly this oil market is going to go in a very different direction. If Iran decides to start sinking tankers that try to come through the Strait of Hormuz, you're going to see things change real fast because the companies that insure these ships will not send their ships through. Now, I know Operation Prosperity Guardian is down there trying to protect the ships that go through the Strait of the Bab al-Mandab Strait right around Yemen to get into the Red Sea. We got the Eisenhower carrier group down there, and they're doing their best. But here's the fact is that the Houthis are firing, $60, $70, $80,000 missiles, and the Ike and her group is firing $1+ million missiles to intercept them. That's not good economics, okay? And so the Houthis are just there shooting anything off their bottle rockets they can get. It's hard for them to get more rockets from Iran, but they are being smuggled in. You know where they're not having a shortage of Iranian missiles? In Iran. In Iran, they got Iranian missiles everywhere, right? And they got them all ringed around the Strait of Hormuz because their base case is anyone messes with them and they will start sinking ships in the Strait of Hormuz, and everybody in the world is going to feel that pain real fast. And that's where they're counting on. As they get more provocative, as they attack Israel more and more and more until Israel can't take it anymore, and Israel tries to get a coalition of people to help them attack Iran directly. Where's this all going? World War III is going one place. We're going to have a massive oil crisis out there. Now, the United States will in some ways fare better than a lot of places in the world because we have oil here and we can do stuff, but we can't retool these refineries. It would cost $1 bazillion, but even more so, with the EPA today, it would be impossible to retool these refineries with the way the rules are right now. It would take a president standing up and issuing an emergency order, an executive order, suspending the environmental rules to allow these refineries to rapidly transform so that they can use American oil to produce gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and other things that are necessary. It would take a major shift with one of the candidates that's running for president. I think that's possible. With the dude that's there right now, I think we're in serious trouble because he would never do that. Because saving the planet will be always more important to him than saving American lives. All right, friends, be aware. Oil prices could go through the roof. Any slight problem over in the Middle East or any major production issue out there, supply chain hiccup, and we're going to have problems. There's a new federal rule out there right now that the Biden administration has put in that is going to impact 76% of offshore oil rigs in the not the Persian Gulf, the Gulf of Mexico. So American oil rigs off the coast there are going to be impacted by this new ruling. We're going to see probably a bunch of those oil rigs either go out of business or to be sold to other companies. We're talking about 36,000 jobs at risk, $570 million in federal royalties that could just disappear because the federal government is being a jerk and basically targeting these small companies and only wanting to work with these big globalist, nationalist companies out there. It could seriously impact GDP, but it could also impact oil production out there. All right, friends, keep an eye on things. Stay stocked up when it comes to oil and gas. As best you can, make sure you have motor oil. Make sure you have gas cans and gas tanks. Make sure you're rotating that stuff as well. That's your semi-monthly warning that you need to rotate your gas again if you haven't just in the last couple of months. All right, friends, thanks so much for watching. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.